In 2017, smartphones went through a massive design shift where they tried to eliminate as much bezel as humanly possible. This is the turning point that made smartphones more like what they are today. But what were they like a year before, in 2016? What were peak smartphones like before we started caring about bezel sizes? And garbage AI crap. I took a little look inside of my box full of smartphones and found 4 phones, each released in 2016, to compare for this video. Representing iOS, we have the iPhone 7. Representing Android, we have the Samsung Galaxy S7. Representing Windows Phone, we have the Microsoft Lumia 650. And because why not, let's chuck another phone in here, the first generation Google Pixel. Each of these phones launched for around the same price back in 2016, with the exception of the Lumia 650, which was more budget oriented. And while we're on the topic of money, representing the sponsor of this video, we have Ugreen. This video was sponsored by Ugreen and their product, the FindTrack Slim Smart Finder. This is a slim credit card sized Bluetooth tracker that is fully compatible with Samsung Smart Hub. This tracker is insanely thin, only 1.7mm, making it easy to put in any wallet without it getting stuck. The included magnetic charger charges the device in only 2 hours, and that charge lasts for 1 whole year, meaning that you don't have to replace any batteries inside the device, creating less waste. The battery level can also be checked inside the app too. But what if you lose your phone instead of the tracker? Well, you can ring your phone instantly just by double pressing the button on the tracker. Perfect for when your phone is nearby, but you just can't seem to figure out where it is. You'll always be able to know where the Ugreen FindTrack is, as it leverages Samsung's global network for long-range tracking. And for nearby tracking, the built-in buzzer provides a loud sound, helping you to locate it. Additionally, you can also get notifications that alert you when you leave your items behind. And unlike other Bluetooth trackers, the Ugreen FindTrack Slim stores historical location data for up to 7 days, helping you find and retrieve your lost items. Need something slightly less card-shaped? Well, you can also get the Ugreen FindTrack Smart Finder. This is an ultra small Bluetooth tracker with a battery that lasts up to 550 days using a replaceable battery, perfect for finding your keys or even your pets. So do you need to keep track of your devices? Check out the Ugreen FindTrack Smart Finders using the link in the description below. Let's talk about design. A word that has a silent G in it for absolutely no reason. Which phone is first? Oh, I know! Apple. This is an iPhone 7 in the black color. While there had been black iPhones released in the past, they didn't release one quite like this beautiful matte black finish. They also released phones in jet black this year as well. Now, while it may look like glass, it was actually still aluminium and it would scratch insanely easy. It was one of the worst wearing materials Apple ever put on one of their devices, with the exception of the chrome back on iPods. But to put it simply, all the iPhone 7 really is just an updated version of the iPhone 6s, which is an updated version of the iPhone 6. Just for the sake of comparison, this is an iPhone 6. And yeah, they look pretty similar. The iPhone 6 was the iPhone to bring camera bumps to the masses. The iPhone 7 is when iPhone cameras started to inflate a little bit. Even more so on the iPhone 7 Plus, because that's when they introduced a second camera. And then all of a sudden, second cameras became very popular. They also hid the antenna lines on the iPhone 7 instead of making it go across the back like this, kind of like an iPhone 5. They instead make the antenna lines go up and around the top of the device, and they just got rid of the ones that go across. It makes for a much cleaner look. They also changed the font. That's for like the 2 of you who care. And really, between these 2 phones, there's only about 2 other differences. One difference is that the home button physically moves on older iPhones, while on the iPhone 7, they switched to a haptic solid-state button. I mean, it works, it feels alright, but also I kinda do like the feel of the physical button a bit more, but it works, I guess, so there is that. But I would say the biggest physical change between the iPhone 6 and iPhone 7, and the most controversial one, is the lack of a headphone jack. That is what the iPhone 7 has been remembered for, the phone to remove the headphone jack. And I still hate Apple for this. I wish phones still had headphone jacks on them, but of course they don't, because they want to sell you earbuds and stuff. I've come across many scenarios where I have needed a headphone jack in the wild, and my phone just straight up doesn't have one. So thanks, Apple. Thanks for this absolute garbage. Oh, but use wireless earbuds, but use adapters. They all don't work as well as old headphone jack earbuds used to work. They were just so reliable and simple. If you're one of those people who think that removing this was a good change somehow, then I don't want anything to do with you. Simple as that. And you may need to be checked into a mental institution, because there are people who have those takes. And no, it's not a space issue, because the iPhone 6 was the thinnest iPhone until the iPhone Air, and they've only been getting thicker ever since. For proof, here's an iPhone 12 mini. No excuse. But hey, at least the colors look cool. No, really, the colors did look cool, especially the red iPhone 7. That is the only time, with the exception of the iPhone 17 Pro Max, that they've released a mainline flagship iPhone with a vibrant color, like the top of the range model. Good colors, that's the one thing I can praise the iPhone 7 for. Everything else is pretty anti-consumer to say the least. Okay, enough about this guy, let's bring out our next phone. Ooh, smaznog. This Samsung Galaxy S7 is one of the best Android phones, no, one of the best smartphones ever made. It just looks absolutely incredible. It is fully featured. They didn't actually remove any features. If anything, they added a bunch of features back to this phone. And this phone really was Samsung at their golden age of design. It's just so beautiful and so perfect. See, companies don't do things like this anymore. They don't even make the glass do interesting things nowadays. I know the Chinese do it, but that's really about it. Let's go on a little bit of a detour and talk about the Galaxy S6 for a moment. See, the iPhone 7 removed a bunch of features, the biggest one being the headphone jack. The Samsung Galaxy S6 also removed a bunch of features. It removed removable backs. It removed microSD card support. It also removed water resistance. But what it did add was its absolutely beautiful design. Samsung finally moved away from plastic and went to a glass sandwich with metal rails, making it feel a lot more premium. And then they also added a curved edge to the screen that really made them stand out from the competition at the time. This could have been a really good phone, but unfortunately they removed a few too many features and it was a little bit of a misstep. The Samsung Galaxy S7 completely undoes all of that. They brought back the microSD card. They brought back water resistance. Like, how often do we ever see that? Someone removing a microSD card and then adding it back. Hell yeah, Samsung. Except you ended up removing it again with the S20 series, or S21 series, I forget which one. Hey, at least Samsung was on our side back then. They certainly aren't now. The only feature Samsung really removed from the S7 was the IR blaster on the top of the phone, but honestly, that was more of an enthusiast feature anyway. I like an IR blaster, but it's really not that much of a deal breaker for me. And also the Galaxy S7 by default has flat edges on the side of the phone. The S6 by default had it as well, but they actually had two sizes for the edge. They had an S6, an S6 Edge, and S6 Edge Plus. While on the S7, they simplified it, making the small one flat, and then the big one the edge, with the curved screen and everything. This was actually not too bad of a change, I don't mind this. And really, besides the size of the phone and the fact that one's curved and the other's not, there's not much difference between these two phones. But really, the only thing this phone is missing is a removable back like the old Samsungs, but other than that, this thing is so feature complete. They didn't leave anything out of this phone. You've still got your physical home button with a fingerprint sensor integrated, just like on the iPhone. You've even got slightly interesting things on here like a heart rate sensor on the back, because why not? You've got other cool features on here like wireless charging. The iPhone wouldn't get that until 2017. And the display itself is a beautiful AMOLED panel, and it just looks stunning, even to this very day. The iPhone 7 did have a good display on it, but it's only an LCD and it looks a bit bland in comparison to the beautiful AMOLED of the Galaxy S7. Samsung, in my opinion, was absolutely beating Apple at this time. Apple was fully anti-consumer, they just kept removing features. iOS was pretty limited in comparison to Android at the time, but honestly, the Apple versus Samsung debate at this time was so much fun because they were actually different. Nowadays, they're basically the same goddamn thing. But back then, this was a lot more exciting. And I personally would take a Samsung Galaxy S7 over an iPhone 7 any day of the week. There is, however, one feature that the iPhone has that the Smaznug doesn't, and that is 3D Touch. I mean, look, I like 3D Touch, but also it was so non-essential that Apple ended up removing it from the iPhones. But one thing you might not know is that after iOS 11, I believe, they actually added some interesting gestures to this phone. Like if you 3D touch on the edge, you can actually go into multitasking and switch apps like this. Not many people know that. If you hold it in the middle, you can actually go into multitasking and then go out of it. Other than that, yeah, Apple was a little too focused on courage this year, and Samsung was too busy making this a better phone than the Galaxy S6. But you know what isn't a better phone than any of these? The Microsoft Lumia 650. I mean, it makes sense. These phones were around 1,000 Australian dollars. This phone was only 300 Australian dollars. But honestly, it wasn't even that bad of a value for 300 bucks back in the day, and it actually still had some niceties to it. Now you might be wondering, why am I comparing a budget Windows phone compared to these two flagship devices? And that's because, well, this is the only Windows phone released in 2016. In fact, this is the final Windows phone ever. No, this doesn't count. This runs Android. Yeah, this right here was the final ever Windows phone, and it released in early 2016. So it technically counts for this video. And it actually does have some niceties that previous Windows phones didn't have. For example, the biggest difference being that this phone's actually made out of metal instead of plastic for once. Can you believe it? Microsoft used metal on their phones instead of plastic. Even the flagship Lumia 950s at the time were still made of plastic entirely. This thing being a budget phone, yeah, it used metal. Though, weirdly enough, it used plastic around the charging port. I don't know why, but it just does. Hey, look, a headphone jack. Nice. It uses micro USB on the bottom just like Samsung. The Lumia 950 used USB-C, but they went back to micro USB for this phone. Bit of a bummer. Samsung would also switch to USB Type-C in 2016, but there's a very good reason as to why we're not talking about this phone, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Not only is this phone finally made out of metal, but this phone did something that Samsung couldn't do, except on the Note 4. They built a phone made out of metal with a removable back. How cool is that? So the back of the phone is still plastic, but the frame of the phone is metal. I'm gonna be completely real with you for a moment. I would actually prefer a brand new phone to be exactly like this. I really don't need glass on the back of my phone. The only thing that putting glass on the back of your phone really accomplishes is just getting it shattered whenever you drop it. And you're gonna put it in a case anyway, so I would honestly prefer this setup on a modern phone. I'd much prefer a plastic back with premium metal sides on it. It also makes repairs so much easier and safer as well. If you're gonna go for a plastic back, at least make it removable. Yes, the Lumia 650 has a removable back on it. Hell yeah, I love this on phones. So you can always swap out the battery and have a fresh one in there. Here you have access to your SIM card and micro SD card slot. And then when you're done, just click the back cover back on. I will say this one's a little bit harder to get on. You need to put quite a bit of force in there, but once you get it on, yeah, that's pretty secure. And hey, look at that, an always on display. The Galaxy S7 had that, the iPhone didn't. Yeah, the iPhone's display at this point was really lagging behind the competition, the fact that they were still using an LCD at this point. Like I said, it's a good LCD. I think even the Lumia 650 has a better display than the iPhone 7, and this was a $300 phone when it was brand new, compared to this one being a $1,000 phone. But none of that matters because this phone runs Windows 10 Mobile, a dead operating system. But we'll get into software a little bit later. This one didn't have any kind of home buttons or anything, it just had on-screen navigation, while the iPhone and Samsung both had home buttons, and the Samsung specifically had a menu key and back button. And I always loved how these were backlit, they look so damn good. But the Lumia 650 wasn't the only one to have thick bezels and still have on-screen navigation. The Google Pixel. The first ever Google phone made by Google. Actually manufactured by HTC, but that's besides the point. The first gen Google Pixel was an interesting little device. Let's just talk about this design for a moment. It really didn't know what it wanted to be yet. I do think this two-tone design looks pretty cool, but at the same time it's kind of weird, isn't it? From this bottom part, it looks like it's trying to be an iPhone 6, and then this part, it's trying to have glass and be like every other Android phone. It's an interesting look, and I actually don't mind it, but it's not really that pretty either. Also, something I didn't realize until very recently is that the original Google Pixel actually has a wedge shape to it. It's thinner down here and then gets thicker on the end. I didn't actually know that, but now that it's been pointed out to me, I can't unsee it. It is literally a wedge. Back here is where you'll find the fingerprint scanner, which works. I mean, I don't mind these back-mounted ones. They do the trick. They work pretty well. This is the only phone out of the bunch to have USB Type-C. Very nice. And again, Samsung would also adopt USB Type-C in 2016. However, this phone kinda backfired on them. Literally. If you want to hear a bit more about this phone, I've actually made a video about it. Click up here to watch it. This phone also didn't come with a micro SD card slot. Actually, I don't think a single Google Pixel ever came with a micro SD card slot, which sucks. Thanks, Google. But you know, Google's always trying to sell you their cloud storage and their cloud services, but this phone has an interesting little quirk with that, and we'll get into that in a bit. Of course, you have a headphone jack on the top, which is nice. Well, I mean, pretty much every single phone here has a headphone jack, with the exception of this guy, because this is the only guy in 2016 who decided to remove it, and then everyone decided to copy it. Hey bro, can I borrow your dongle? Honestly, in terms of hardware, all these phones do really damn well, especially the 650, with just how much cheaper it was compared to these other three. It holds up pretty damn well in terms of hardware. I think the slightly more interesting topic with these phones is actually the software. Let's start off with the Android phones. This guy only got up to Android 8. 2 years of software updates, that's all you got with the Samsung. They totally could have updated this phone at least one more year. They literally did that with the Galaxy Note FE. But nope, 2 years is all you got with this. And look, I get it. I know that you can install newer versions of Android on here unofficially, but that really doesn't count because the average person is never going to do that. And two, there are sometimes locks put in place on this phone that literally prevent you from doing that. I'm trying to put a newer version of Android on a Galaxy Note 9 for a video, and I literally can't because of the Knoxguard lock. That got turned on and I literally cannot figure out how to bypass it. It's ridiculous. So 2 years, that's all you get with the Samsung. So with this guy, you're basically stuck on Android 8. As for the Google Pixel, this guy went all the way up to Android 10, which is what this thing is running right now. Hey look, it's the Easter egg for it. But that means it got all the new fancy stuff like gestures and all this sort of fancy schmancy stuff. One interesting thing about this phone is that Google gave every single user of this first gen Pixel unlimited Google photo storage. So any photo you would take with this phone would automatically be backed up to Google Photos for free with unlimited amount of storage. You could take as much photos and videos as you like and just upload it. And you know what the best part about that is? It still works in 2025. That's right. 10 years after the release of this phone, you can still get unlimited Google photo storage, and I've literally done exactly that. I've basically taken every single photo and video I've ever taken, even raw 4K 60 recordings for this channel, which can sometimes go up to hundreds of gigabytes. I've dumped it all onto this phone, and it's just uploaded them. That means I have around 4 terabytes of photos and videos backed up to Google Photos for free because of this phone. Thanks, Google. But that's pretty much what they were trying to position the Google Pixel as. They were trying to position it as the camera phone, with really good cameras and infinite storage for them. And while the first gen Google Pixel had a decent camera, it wouldn't be until the Google Pixel 2 where the cameras really came into their own. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with that one. While we're on the topic of software support, the phone with the absolute worst software support has to be the Windows Phone, simply due to the fact that it's a Windows phone. Now, while I'm pretty sure this phone did get updates for a few years more than the Samsung one, it's still Windows Phone, a completely dead platform. This being obviously the last Windows Phone, yeah, you can see how this isn't really ideal. So this is running the 2015 version of Windows Phone 10. It probably can be updated. I literally had a notification earlier telling me to do a software update. Search results, software updates, no results for software updates, bruh. Seriously? Phone update. That's why software update didn't show up with anything, because you had to search up phone update. Oh, look at that. An actual update for a Windows Phone device. Oh, it's just like my desktop. The worst parts of my desktop. Screw it. Restart now. Let's do this update. We'll let this thing do its update in the background. As for the phone with the best software support, it has to be the iPhone 7. This thing launched in 2016 running iOS 10. This phone has been updated all the way until iOS 15, which released in 2021, easily giving this phone the best software support out of any of these phones here. And not only that, this phone is still getting security updates even today, which is sick. Yeah, see, look at that. This guy's running iOS 15.3. And it runs perfectly fine. This thing is absolutely smooth. It does super well. It runs like a brand new phone. Now, mind you, I'm not really pushing it at the moment. I'm sure if I started to load up a bunch of apps, especially Facebook for whatever reason is so unstable even on brand new devices. But just general system navigation is completely snappy. The Samsung, you definitely can feel a little bit of system lag. Samsung Experience, as the software was called at this time, wasn't really the leanest thing in the world, but also it wasn't horrific either. And this phone could definitely support newer versions of Android. They just chose not to. This guy, from my experience of trying to just absolutely load it full of photos to automatically back up through Google Photos, it's slow. Like, general system navigation's pretty smooth, but trying to push this device, it doesn't like it and just slows down to a crawl. I kind of regret doing the software update on this Lumia 650 because now I have to wait for it to finish before I can continue with this video. But we're going to see how these phones hold up today in terms of like web browsing and all that kind of stuff. Alright, let's try actually using these devices. I'm curious to see how well YouTube runs on these. On the iPhone, I just downloaded the app and it just auto-installed the correct version. It does require iOS 16 now, bleh, but it did install the older version, which is fine. Let's search up Frock for Duck. Okay, now it's on here. Look at that, it's so eager it already wants to play the video. Let's search up Frock for Duck on the Galaxy S7. Ah, look at that. And it just works as well. Beautiful. I already have the YouTube app installed on the Google Pixel. Oh, look at this ancient Gboard app. Look at that. God damn. I actually kind of like this contrast we have going on here. Black bezels, white UI. White bezels, black UI. As for the Windows Phone, yeah, there's not really a YouTube app on here, so that means we're gonna have to do some edging on Microsoft Edge. Optus, ew, we hate Optus here, go away. For those of you in America who don't know, Optus is one of the worst telcos in Australia. I mean, kinda all the telcos suck. They literally had their emergency call network fail, resulting in 2 deaths. YouTube.com. This keyboard is straight ass. I hate this keyboard. Browser's outdated, whatever. Proceed to YouTube. As long as it works, I don't care how outdated the browser is. Just work, you know? What the hell is that? Oh, I'm scared to search that. What the hell is this? What have I clicked onto? Oh, you know what? I don't even know. That's better. Jeez. Okay. Now we're on the channel. It's trying to load. While that loads, let's try watching YouTube on the iPhone. Let's take our latest video here. Oh, of course we have an ad, because why wouldn't we? Is the fact that I bought this from Facebook Marketplace for only $200. These speakers sound like complete arse. Oh my god, why does YouTube have pause ads now? Let's go to advanced and let's turn this up to 1080p 60. It won't show up with 4K even though this is a 4K video. I went on Facebook Marketplace and I bought this. Apple. Pretty much everything about this computer works, except for the keyboard. Video playback works perfectly fine. It's just, yeah, the speakers are really damn crunchy. So 1080p 60 video works great, even though this would be a 720p screen. Anyways, let's go to the Smaznug. Let's try playing the same video on here. Let's see how well this runs. Okay, well maybe it is. This is an M1 MacBook Pro. Even though this is only a mono speaker and does sound kind of crappy, I actually think it's less distorted than the iPhone 7. Now, I'm not sure if this thing sustained like water damage or something, but I actually prefer the way the speaker sounds on here. Let's try turning up the quality. Ah, look at that. This one can actually go up to 4K 60. And that's actually interesting because the display on the Galaxy S7 is actually 1440p compared to like the 720p on here. It's currently set to 1080p as it usually is out of the box because you don't need 1440p on a phone, it's just a waste of battery. Let's try bumping this up to 4K 60. How well will it run? Every other key seems to be working just fine. Okay, so I was watching So it's not quite 60 FPS, but it's actually handling it just fine. It just doesn't have enough internet to handle it, which is fair enough. Playing card. Toothpick. Well, I can tell you now it's not playing back at 60 frames, but this is perfectly fine. Honestly, just bump it down to 1080p and it still looks absolutely fantastic. And it runs perfectly. Beautiful. You pass the test, Samsung. Next phone, the Google Pixel. Will you support playing a video back at 1080p? Okay, well maybe it is. This is an M1 MacBook Pro. But what makes this guy special? It passes the 1080p test. Nice. This one's also a mono speaker. I would say the Samsung does sound a bit better. Okay, 2160p. Can you do 4K? Tutorial on YouTube, and they suggest playing card. Toothpick. It handles it perfectly. Now, I'm pretty sure that this phone has a faster processor than this S7. Actually, this is an AT&T model, so this is an American S7, so surely this is Snapdragon as well. I don't know. Whatever. All I know is that these are some really thick tooth. It's handling 4K video perfectly. You pass a test with flying colors. It actually does it a lot better than the S7 did. So good on you, Google Pixel. You did something good. And finally, the Lumia. Now we have to do it through the browser because there is no YouTube app for Windows Phone. It literally loaded it just before. I don't know why it's struggling so hard now. Let's try refreshing the page again. Ah, here we go. Alright, let's just tap on the video. We're getting somewhere. Oh, okay, we're gonna watch that one apparently. Sure, why not? Please don't have crappy speakers like most Windows phones do. 4,000 Australian dollars. But if you're being completely honest with yourself, 99% of people don't need phones that are this expensive. For most people, a budget phone would do them perfectly fine. But how cheap of a brand new smartphone can you get and still have it be a decent experience? What is the bare minimum that you would need in a smartphone? One other thing I'm really impressed about this Lumia is that they, for once, didn't put the speakers on the back. Yay, give it up for Microsoft. The speakers are on the front. I'm pretty sure we can only go up to 720p on the website. 1080? What? I've never seen the website version on Windows Phone do this before. Oh, we can go to full screen now. Okay. Yeah, sure. Play, 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 play. You can do it. Come on, little buddy. Play. What if we go back to the start? I think we've balked it. I don't think it wants to work anymore. Well, that figures itself out. We're gonna try doing the audio test. Man, this phone is so much faster. What? No, don't refresh the page. What are you doing? What's up, guys? It's Frogfaduck. You can spend a lot. I can't stop the video. Australian dollars. Oh, apparently we've paused it. We'll wait for that to load. And while we do that, I'm going to do the staircase.wav test to hear how these speakers sound, because I genuinely think there's something wrong with this particular phone's speakers. Wow, not bad. That is probably the best speakers I've... No, shut up. That is probably the best speakers I've ever heard on a Lumia device. They actually sound decent. And not like complete garbage. It really is interesting just how much this little budget Windows phone does better than the last flagship Windows phones that were made. It has better build quality and definitely better speakers. They were actually decent for once. Can you believe it? Alright, now it's time for the camera test. I've taken some sample photos using these devices to compare which one has the best camera. Let's have a little look at the images that these devices created. And that, my friends, was the camera comparison. That's probably the largest one I've done yet, considering I was comparing 5 different smartphones. But I think the results were honestly pretty interesting. One other thing I would like to mention about Samsung specifically is the camera. You may notice that the camera app looks a little bit different to how it does today. And that's because as soon as you launch a camera app, you can take a photo and take a video without having to switch modes. When Samsung released the first version of One UI, they basically copied the iPhone camera UI and removed this. They need to bring this back because this is the perfect camera layout, being able to just quickly take a video or photo immediately without having to switch. Now this might be a good time to bring up the Plus models, because only one of them has a difference in cameras. Let's start off with the Galaxy S7 and its Plus model, the Galaxy S7 Edge. Really, the only difference between this guy and this guy is the fact that this phone is bigger and has a larger battery, and also the fact that it has a curved screen, which looks very nice. This one doesn't have any differences with the camera. It's the same camera, takes the same photos, but yeah, just a bigger phone. As for the Google Pixel, we have the Google Pixel XL. Once you see that these phones are wedge-shaped, you will never be able to unsee it. It's basically the same story with the Google Pixel XL, but it's actually even less differences because even the screen is the same as well. I'm pretty sure that this screen's a higher resolution, but it's still flat, just like the regular Pixel. So pretty much it's just a larger phone and a larger battery size. But this particular phone has a few more differences. What's this logo? What? That's not the Google logo. That's not what that looks like at all. Not for sale. Interesting. This guy here is actually a prototype Google Pixel XL. If you want to learn a little bit more about this device, and I really do mean a little bit more because this device doesn't work properly, check out the video I made about this on my second channel, link up here. Things only start to get a little bit more interesting once we get to the iPhone, and the iPhone 7 Plus. It's the same affair, larger screen, larger battery, but the biggest difference is the second camera. While phones with dual camera setups did exist before the iPhone 7, this well and truly is the phone to popularize it, because right after this, that's when every single manufacturer decided to start doing it. And I'm going to be real with you, the second camera on here isn't really that useful anyways. It's just a 2x telephoto. It lets you get some portrait shots and a slightly better zoom, but the zoom didn't even look good. So honestly, this was pretty damn pointless until we started putting some ultra wide cameras and some real zoom cameras in there. this was pretty pointless. Oh, and while I have it out, I have another iPhone 7 Plus here. This one in the jet black color, and you can see just how destroyed it looks. Literally a phone case is all it took to wreck the back of this phone. What a terrible finish this is. As for the Lumia 650, yeah, this didn't get a Plus model. Overall, my biggest takeaway is that these phones are honestly all pretty decent. Even the little budget Lumia 650. Pretty much everything about this phone is actually pretty decent, especially at the price point it was sold for. The only thing that really holds it back is the fact that the processor is absolute garbage and it's just really slow, and also the cameras are not that good. But for the price, everything else about the phone is actually pretty damn decent. As for the Samsung, this was the phone you would get if you wanted the most features. Most hardware features and the most software features especially. For example, you can just do split screen apps, because why not? That's something you couldn't do on an iPhone? Actually, that's something you still can't do on an iPhone, and they'll probably never let you do that. But it's been working on Samsung phones for the last 13 years and it's only just been getting more and more refined. And in case that wasn't enough for you, you can even have floating apps, so you can use an app and then have a floating app on top of it to do extra stuff. This is one of my favorite Android features and is literally the only reason I am still using Samsung right now. Google refuses to add it to their Pixels and I will never understand why. The Google Pixel was good if you just wanted a smooth Android experience. I mean, that's still kinda the reason you'd buy one today. That and the pretty decent camera that it has, and especially the free unlimited Google photo storage. That was a pretty big selling point back then. Google would actually keep that incentive all the way until the Google Pixel 5. However, only the first gen Pixel lets you save those photos at the original resolution. The Pixel 2 to Pixel 5 would only upload them at a reduced resolution. And then the Pixel 6 came along and they got rid of it altogether. Could you imagine if they still offered that today, just how much money they would be losing on that? It would be crazy. And the iPhone 7 was good if you just wanted an all-round decent phone. It runs smoothly, has the best support, and just works. For the most part. I know that these iPhone 7s have a few reliability issues, but yeah, that's besides the point. It's just a damn shame that this phone was such a bad influence on the rest of the industry. Apple. But other than that, this was a pretty decent iPhone. And really, that's the main takeaway from all these phones. By 2016, the regular smartphone format was very refined and polished. You know, they had become really nice works of art that could do so much, but were kind of reaching the limitations in terms of what we could really change about them. It was only inevitable that we started tackling bezels next. Samsung was already starting to push the boundaries of bezels by curving the edges of their displays to make them look bigger than they actually are. And it was an effect that worked pretty damn well. And only 2 months after 2016 ended, Samsung would fully commit to the bezel-less future with the Samsung Galaxy S8, which was the first true mainstream phone to get rid of bezels on their phone. I mean, granted, it still had bezels, but you get what I mean. But even in 2016, you still had phones like the Xiaomi Mi Mix that existed that were already starting to push bezel-less displays. And then you also had the Sharp iOS Crystal all the way back in 2014, but we're not discussing that one right now. If you want to watch that, click up here. These devices just have such a different vibe to them and a different premiumness to them that modern phones simply don't have. Also, I'm someone who absolutely hated white color bezels at the time, and I still don't think white is the best color, but different colors for bezels, for example, gold, like on this Samsung Galaxy Note 7, it's a box. I don't know, man, there's just something about it that just looks and feels so premium, like you're holding a golden picture frame with your content in the middle. And when there's content displaying on the screen, it just feels more like something that's naturally integrated into the design of the phone. It makes it feel like it's a part of like this detailed bezel here. It's something I never noticed nor cared about back in the day, but going back to these phones now after we've removed all the bezels, there's something kind of charming about these old phones. Yeah, it looks good removing the bezels and all that, but also, it's kind of boring, isn't it? I kind of like just how much character these older devices had. My name is Frogfadoc, you can say that however you want, I really don't care. New videos whenever I like. Consider becoming a channel member like all these people on the screen have. You get some bonus videos, early access to my upcoming videos, custom Discord server roles, and your very own Minecraft server, all rolled into one. Starts at $1 a month, and that's about it. That's the end of the video. Thanks for watching.